This is the Horsepower Hour.
Yes, hello and welcome to another of the Horsepower Hour, the only podcast with a salvage title. Joining me as always is the beautiful, the wonderful Coy Forticus and Masterson. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. Doing great. How about you?
I'm doing good, dude, but I'm real jealous of that RC crawler track that you built for your son.
Oh, my son. Yeah. Uh, we've been enjoying it together. In fact, Garrett came over last weekend and brought his crawler, and we played out there for a couple hours. But this freaking rain will not. We're gonna have like the wettest summer ever here in the valley in Oregon. Dude, it is like raining. Rained all last weekend, rained like 3 days this week. It's supposed to downpour all this weekend. It's like it's mid-June. Come on. Like, I know it's good for fire season, but Lord.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say, April showers. Oh, wait. Yeah, it's June. Shit, man. I don't know what's going on with the weather here because we're supposed to have some massive thunderstorms roll through. And I was kind of looking forward to it, actually. And then something happened, the weather changed, and all the clouds got pushed up north. And we just, instead of having rain and thunderstorms, we just had beautiful, crystal clear, blue skies. You know, it was rough, real rough.
Yeah, it sounds horrible. It sounds really horrible.
All right, fair enough. I know that face when I see it, and that face tells me that Coin wants to skip over all of the niceties and get straight into the news.
Absolutely, bro. We got some good news. So
We got some really interesting news this week. I feel like this has been a good week for automotive journalism, period. I want to start off with this one. Cadillac, they're making a new hypercar, man. It's not exactly Cadillac. It's like Cadillac in conjunction with another company, and they're doing a joint endeavor. But they are trying to make an endurance racer. I mean, flat out, they plan on debuting it next year at the 24 Hours of Daytona, and they plan on competing in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And I mean, it sounds like they're pretty serious about it. Of course, we've got photos up on the live stream. If you guys are chiming in the live stream, if you're listening to the podcast, hit those links below. We've got it all down there ready to go, and you guys can follow along as you listen. What do you think of the looks of this thing, man? I mean, clearly it's renders.
I mean, if this render is anything like the real thing, which I feel like we have better chance of it since it's a race car, like they'll just build it how they want it to look,
Mm-hmm.
rather than the renders we get hit with production cars that don't look anything like the renders. But I love it. It's distinctly Cadillac. Like I look at that and I'm like, oh, it's a Cadillac Le Mans car. Like it's got all the caddy sharp edges, the weird headlights, the weird tail lights. It's obviously in the only color we like Cadillacs in, and that's black. So
But is the Cadillac giving you cataracts?
this one is not. I could stare at this. I mean, this render is like straight up screensaver status. It's good. Yeah, I'm digging it. We'll
I'm
see
really
if it performs like it looks, or if it even looks like it looks when it comes out next year. But I mean, those rear tail lights, bro.
It's got the makings of everything that you would want and need. I mean, it's got to be, surely it's out of the conception stage. That's what I really want to know about this. I mean, like you said, you're spot on. When you're doing a render of a race car, it's because you're trying to model it off of that render, not just get people hyped up about your thing. So I completely agree that it's probably going to look something like this, and that is a true Le Mans car. And they're wanting to get back into endurance racing. And I mean, I don't really see any reason why it will be bad necessarily. It just feels kind of weird. Does it bump you a little bit that this thing is a Cadillac and it says Cadillac on it?
You know, for an endurance racer, it's kind of like a caddy, really. But the looks of this just outshines. Uh, yeah, I mean it looks like something a villain would drive. You know, like it's good
Mhm.
looking. It's mean.
For whatever reason, this kind of makes me excited to see like on the racetrack. It's just kind of an exciting thing to know that manufacturers are starting to get a little more into it or back into it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What you know what I love about these cars, and everybody loves this, but manufacturers don't do it hardly ever. I'm assuming because it's super hard to do. When the wheel arches are higher than the shock towers,
Ooh, yeah.
it's like all Le Mans prototype cars kind of have that look. A bunch of the JC GT 500, the Australian supercars, it's all kind of bodied race cars, but full custom suspension so they can do these crazy wide body things. And everybody goes, "Oh, I want that body kit for my car. It looks good." Well, it's impossible without cutting out all the shock. Like, that's just not how it works. But we all want that. We see that and we're just like, "Oh, those wheel arches sticking up on the side. It just looks so good."
But then when you do see those race fabricators that bring their, like, I don't know, Chevy C10 project to SEMA, and then it's got cantilever suspension all the way around, it just, there's a boner factor there. I love it.
Yeah. I wish a manufacturer would make some cars where the wheel, where the top of the wheel arch is like several inches higher than the actual shock tower. We have that big dip in at the hood.
Hmm.
Yeah, just looks great.
I think there are some manufacturers that do that, but I think you're going to be paying like $5 million for their cars.
Exactly.
I'm looking at you, Koenigsegg. Well, speaking of beloved races like the 24 hours at Daytona, Le Mans, all the other, doesn't Willow Springs have a 12-hour race that they do? Isn't that part of the IMSA endurance series?
There's a 24 hours of Thunder Hill.
Oh, Thunder Hill. That's probably what I'm thinking about.
Probably what you're thinking of.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just good news all the way around for the car community, motorsports enthusiasts, and it's really never come at a better time, in my opinion, because the Isle of Man TT is going on right now. Coy, one of my favorite races. I have actually paid for the pay per view to like watch the cameras and everything going on live. Although, if I'm being honest, most of your good stuff is going to be in the highlight reel. But this year's hitting a little bit differently because somehow, and you know, who knows why, the Twitter mob has decided that they need to chime in on the Isle of Man TT, and it has not been pretty. So I have to admit, I mean, it's been a little hairy. Not that this is uncommon at the TT, by the way. People die every single year. I don't think they've had a single year without a death. And in what was it, 1989, they had something like 12 racer deaths and 2 spectator deaths. So I mean, this is a dangerous race, and everyone accepts that. Everyone that races there, they all accept it. But as we're seeing from Yahoo Sports, I never thought I'd be using Yahoo for their news, but here we go. Isle of Man TT race under fire after third death in 5 days.
Yeah.
Now, it's a little jarring to hear that, wow, 3 people died at this race. But then historically, when you go back and look at how many people died during this race, that's not even a blip on the radar.
Yeah. And I like it when they're like, it's under fire. No, a bunch of people on Twitter are talking about it and being like, "Ooh, Isle of Man bad." That's not under fire.
Mhm.
Like, the until I see sanctioning bodies be like, "Hey, we got to make some changes," then it's not under fire. Like, until the government comes in, which the government's not going to because it's Isle of Man and they have no power here. Uh, like, that's not under fire. That's just a Twitter mob. Like, I don't understand why it gets reported as like, "Oh, they're coming down on." No, it's a bunch of Karens and dudes that aren't into racing. Like, racing bad. Why die? I
Yeah,
This is not under fire. This is just some people who don't even know what it is talking about it. And
right.
there's a bunch of comparisons like, hey, if 3 people died every year in the NFL in the middle of a game, would be a huge deal. Yeah, it would be because there is a certain amount of safety that you expect to see going into the NFL, even though it's a brutal contact sport. No one's like, hey, be careful out there because you have like a 30% chance of dying. No, it's like a 0.02 chance. Like, it's probably more dangerous to be a construction worker than an NFL worker. Whereas Isle of Man, you go into it knowing that your health insurance has canceled your policy, your life insurance policy,
Yeah.
like, they literally sent you hate mail and canceled your, like, this is obviously super dangerous stuff. This is like Red Bull stunts, but more dangerous probably than that. Like nobody freaks out when we're like, hey, this guy was trying to wingsuit between these two peaks and only wanted to split this gap by 3 feet, and he didn't, and then he splattered everywhere, and you're like, oh wow. You're not like, we should shut it down. It's like this dude fucking wanted to do it. He clearly knew it was insanely dangerous, but still wanted to do it. Like that's freedom. If you want to fuck yourself up doing something awesome, hell yeah. Like that's what YouTube was invented for.
Mobile Moto says it's more dangerous to be the spouse of an NFL player than at Isle of Man TT.
Oh, wow. I'm not going to say that's not true though.
That is harsh, bro. Wow.
Whew, that's a sick burn. And
that's a spicy take, man. That's a spicy take. But I mean, so we do have to admit something. There are racers, motorcycle racers, like well-known motorcycle racers that will not do this race because they know how dangerous it is. One of the people that did unfortunately pass away during the TT was Davey Morgan. This was his 80th running at the TT, 80 times. He had gambled with his life 80 times. And it was number 80 that got him. And I mean, this is not a, what's the term I'm looking for? This is just how it is. This is a race that's been running since 1913 or something like that, with all variety of, bicycles, cars, motorcycles. So I mean, this is a heritage piece, and there's never been an outcry before. And people just need to realize, like, this is motorsports. This is what can happen. These motorcycles are going 200 miles an hour and 140 through the towns with hay bales that are 6 feet apart. So I mean, there is inherent danger here. Mobile Moto, back with the comments, Moto Roulette. It's very true. It's very true, because you're kind of gambling with your life. But having said that, there are lots of racers that say they wouldn't miss the TT for the world, because it's the most important thing to them that they could possibly do. I mean, some of these guys talking about it, it almost sounds like, like a two Valhalla cry, to live is to suffer and to die is to gain, as long as you die at the TT.
Yeah, there's a that was smooth, by the way. There's a bunch of guys there where it's almost like a religious experience for them. Like they're like, no, I know I could die. Absolutely. It almost sounds like we've all had that buddy in high school that's like, I love my country, I'm joining the army. And then you always have the ones that are like, I need a sign-on bonus, I want to build a car, and they join the army. But it's like, it's that kind of almost patriotic fervor you get when once in a while, when it's like a family thing for somebody to join the army or something. And it's like they got to go do it no matter the consequences or danger. And it's, we don't ever stop those guys. We have no problems with these guys, joining the armed forces and going fighting in some third world country that nobody really cares about but our government. And no one really is kind of, we'll let them do that 20 years straight and maim and murder and kill a whole bunch of our young guys. But then some dudes that want to do a race that's dangerous, that 3-4 people a year die at, probably actually closer to 2. Like, then the Twitter mob has to be like, yeah, it's too dangerous. And it's like, then don't watch. Don't race in it. If it's too dangerous for you. Like,
they're gonna die apart.
Now you have little PP energy, like on a like. Just be like, yeah, it's too dangerous, so you shouldn't do it. No, it's too dangerous, so you shouldn't do it. Not the people that want to do it. Like no one's being forced to do this. Like no one's. I think some people think it's more like professional sports where they're like, hey, you got to do this or you're going to lose everything. No, you can absolutely skip this race. In fact, I bet that a lot of the sponsors would rather these guys didn't, especially if they're winning on the GP circuit and stuff. Like. It's like, no, they have a star racer they would like to not die. And the chances of him dying at Isle of Man significantly higher. I'm betting a bunch of them is, actually the sponsors would prefer they didn't drive in it.
Oh, I agree 100%, because why would they want their, like you said, star racer to put themselves in harm's way? It's a very kind of cool, almost like a Western backdrop or feel to me, or like a Ronin kind of a situation. It's like, yeah, I cannot go, and then everyone's going to call me a pussy. And then if I go and I win, or I beat the guy that I want to beat and I don't die, there you go. And if I do die while I'm trying to beat this other guy, I guess he was just better.
Yeah, it's like died with honor. Now,
Right.
honestly, if somebody came up to me and was like, "Hey, you want to ride a bike in the Isle of TT?" I was like, "No, but if you're going to fly me there, I'd love to watch, but absolutely not." And I'm also going to be careful where I watch from because spectators die as well. Like that's a thing. Like a bike can go through you at 140 miles an hour. Turns out your body's actually not made to withstand 400 pounds of supermoto bike going through your chest. So,
Yeah.
uh, the spectator part, I get it. Like if you're getting a bunch of spectators dying, then it's like, hey, you gotta provide a certain level of safety that for people that would like to watch this. But on the other hand, there's a certain part of that if you're spectating at Isle of Man, you could be dodging a bike or a body. Like that's kind of how it rolls, which is kind of what makes it awesome.
Mhm.
Like, and I think why the Twitter mob goes after this so hard is because it's so untouchable. Like
Mhm.
it's its own island, it's its own government. They do what they want. They've been doing it forever, and nobody can really step in and be like, "Okay, this is enough." And it's like, "No, you can't. You can't touch me. Just go fuck yourself." Like that's
Mhm.
basically how Isle of Man TT response is. It's just like, "No, we're doing it. As long as people come, we're going to do it." So,
Mhm. Well, it's not
uh,
just the race, by the way. It's Isle of Man, period. If you want to go and live on Isle of Man, there needs to be a job that you are qualified for and can go straight into. And they have like rotating work visas. Very few people, and not very few. I mean, the majority of the population there, but like there's 20% of the population. I would constitute that as quite a few that are just on rotating visas. You can't just go there and move there and live there. They're like, whoa, whoa, what are you doing? This is a small island. We have our own rules, and I don't really like the color of your hair. So,
no, I don't know about that, but it seems a
well, I'm
little.
just saying, like, if they ever wanted to implement, I don't know, call the bill too many gingers, where they decide they have too many redheads on the island, and so no one that's redheaded is allowed on, they can do that because it's just that's the way they roll. Uh, Fun fact: I once looked up what it would take to move to Isle of Man because I thought it'd be cool, be like a, how that'd be a fun thing to go and do. For one thing, all of their jobs you need to be not just qualified for, but overqualified for. And second, you can't really get citizenship. I mean, not unless you're a millionaire looking to invest bunches and bunches and bunches of your own money, basically buying your way into a citizenship. But also, it's a small island with a limited amount of properties. And so you get what you get. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
And
You know,
never has that been more true for an island and its race. It is what it is. You get what you get. And if you die, you die.
ex- exactly, bro. I hope it never ends. I mean, bikes get faster every year, helmets get safer. Like
Mhm.
it's just like you said it best. It is what it is. Like people die there, and that's what they want. They don't want to die, I don't assume, but they've already made peace with that. They're like, yeah, I could totally die here. I understand there's a statistically significant chance, and then just moving on. They're doing it. So Valhalla.
I thought the New World Order was all about diminishing the population. Like, why would they have a problem with this? There's people taking themselves out voluntarily.
The Twitter mob should totally be fine with it because it's like the crazy gearhead guy who's on a gas bike. It's probably might even be a two stroke. Like it's just
Yeah.
making there's no carb compliance. This thing is making more pollution than your Camry does in its entire lifetime in the 4 hours or whatever that you're racing it. So, they should actually be like, oh, good.
Yeah. I've got a new sticker for you, by the way. You remember last week we were talking to Mercedes Lowenthal about
Hmm.
fake stickers?
Hmm.
I'm going to make a new one that says, if you like abortions, you're not going to believe the Isle of Man TT.
My body, my choice. Like,
Boom. That's when it comes to the Isle of Man TT, I'm pro choice.
my spine, my choice. Yeah.
You can choose to live or you can choose to die. Momoto says the Isle of Man and caber tossing are the last remaining manly pursuits other than military service. I think that's good. Yeah, because you can't really like dual shoot at each other anymore, right?
Not not in
Not
first and
legally.
second world countries. I'm guessing there are some where you could. I don't know if it's legal, but nobody's going to do anything about it. Yeah, it's narrowing down. Like Isle of Man is I mean, it's give all take all and roll the dice, and that's what it is. It's what and it's always been that way. Is why I am surprised people are suddenly saying it now. I get that it's 2022, but like that's what these guys want to do. And this wasn't like a 19-year-old. Like the one that kind of everybody's freaking out about is this guy's like, dude, he's in his 50s, I think. Like he's no spring chicken. Like,
Mhm.
and this is what he wanted to do. He's had 80 starts. Like he's had plenty of fucking time to think about it. That's just what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's funny? They were actually they're playing a new theme song for the Isle of Man TT, and I think I've got it pulled up here. Let's listen to it.
Ricey K.
It's a thrill of one more kill. All right, I'm done. Are you ready to move on?
I'm ready.
Corey's
All
been ready
hail
for a
Isle
while.
of Man TT.
And you know what? All hail Ford CEO Jim Farley. I'm liking this guy more and more.
Dude, he's the true hero.
Dude, he's got a pair on him. I'm really surprised and impressed by some of this stuff. So, first thing we need to talk about, we're going to flash back to February, okay? In February, um, not just Ford, but a few other manufacturers sent letters out to their dealerships saying, "Hey, everybody, we know what's going on with the price gouging. It's not good. It can't happen. I understand that we're short on supply and you guys are high on demand, but this is going to come back to bite us, and we cannot allow you to keep doing this." Um, Farley said in a speech at IBM conference, he described a future where Ford dealerships would no longer stock inventory but serve as customer service centers for picking up online orders or repairing existing vehicles. Now, we didn't know when that was going to happen. And I personally know quite a few car salespeople that were up in arms about that. They were just like, you can't do that. You can't tie our hands in that way. However, on the flip side, we also personally know several people. As a matter of fact, we've got one in the comments. Mobile Moto is still here. He says he's still waiting for his 2022 Bronco.
He
And
also gave a great quote. What is the greatest thing to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their women?
Conan
Yes,
the Barbarian, baby.
Conan.
But yeah, it's real though. I mean, it's a very real thing, and it's a very real problem. And not just not being able to get their deliverables, but flashing back to when we had David Boyd on the show, he was talking to us about how basically a friend of his that knew he was getting that Bronco went by the Ford dealership and saw his Bronco in the front of the Ford store, and they went in and said, "Hey, what's the deal?" And or I think they were trying to kind of figure out what exactly the dealership was doing. Like maybe they were just trying to display it or something. And she said, "What's it going to take for me to take this home right now?" And the dude told her 6,000 or 8,000 or whatever it was over MSRP, and you take it home. She, of course, immediately called up David and said, "Hey, you better get down here, man, because they're trying to sell this Bronco out from underneath you." A Bronco that he had pre-ordered. I think he was a second day or a third day order, wasn't he, Coy?
He was right in there. Yeah, he was way up there. They tried to sell it out from underneath him. He went down there and crapped all over him. But that is a special kind of evil that dealerships. I would sue them for that. Like if you reserve order it and wait for it, and then they sold yours, like it. In my opinion, it's not their property. Like they're delivering it to me, even though the papers haven't been signed. And I honestly am disappointed in Ford in the one aspect that they had this many reservations that they can't fulfill, and they were still and still are sending dealers non-reservation ones. Like I know
Mhm.
the dealers reserved those themselves, but Ford should just been like, sorry, dealers, we gotta make orders to the people that ordered them, not so you
Mhm.
can price gouge. Like I think they could have solved a lot of this with these reservations. If they're like, hey, sorry, dealers, your reservations come last. If we're behind, you don't get them.
Yeah.
I mean, and who do you want to get these vehicles? The people that literally pre-ordered it from you and said, I will wait a year or longer to get this. Or some dude just rolling by and going, oh, they got a Bronco for sale for way over MSRP. I'll just get a huge loan and buy it so that I can default on this later. It seems kind of, yeah, I really wish they would have done something different there.
Well, and they're going to try to now. The way I've tried to explain it to people is imagine the new iPhone comes out and you're lined up around the block waiting for your new iPhone. And then they come around and they go, okay, we need a deposit. We're going to go ahead and take the new one is $1,200. We're going to go ahead and take 300 from you as a deposit. And they go around, they have your money now, right? And then you start seeing owners of Apple stores walking in and just carrying out pallets of iPhones. And then they tell you, oh, sorry, we don't have one for you. Can you come back in a month? I mean, that's sort of what we can equate this to. And I mean, not only is it shady business practices, but morally, it's not right. It's almost getting to the point where a person might feel stolen from. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I would absolutely. That's the one thing. Like, I do like how Ford has handled a lot of this, and now they're starting to come down on their dealers for this overpricing. But on the other hand, it's like, why pre-order if you can just call the dealer every day and ask if they have a Bronco in and get it for MSRP? Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So stop sending the dealers their orders of Broncos because they're just a dealer. The people that fucking or pre-ordered this, like it's unprecedented almost the way these pre-orders worked. I mean, I know Tesla's done it, but God, like these people pre-ordered it. They have to come 1000% first. There's no dealer that should be getting one. And I
Hmm.
get that the dealers could get on there and pre-order them just like other people. They should not have been able to.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 1000%. And
I mean, if I had a time machine go back in time, the second the pre-order dropped, just be sitting there, I should have made 25 reservations and just buy them from the dealer and just be like, look, I'll sell it back to you right now for 2,000 over so you can sell it for 6. Like I could have just bought you. I mean, you could have literally, if you'd got enough pre-orders, if you just did 25 of them, you could have just bought them and then just took them home, put them on Craigslist with a window sticker still in it and just resold it and
right,
made money.
right.
So yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up Tesla, by the way, because whenever people bring up Tesla and they go, "Oh, Tesla's been doing this forever, bro." Yeah, they were doing it when they were literally selling 10,000 cars a year. And now obviously they're selling a lot more, but there's something to be said about implementing a system like this early on and then having it grow with you. It's something entirely different to implement a system like this when you're selling tens of millions of cars a year already, and now you're going to try to implement this system. And of course that's why they're breaking it up. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but remind me to come back to this. So Jim Farley talked about how, for dealerships, there could be a future there where they no longer stock inventory. They're just a customer service hub, or the buyers can just choose to have home delivery done with their vehicle and then take it to whatever Ford dealership that they want to. It- Theoretically, what we could be talking about is the elimination of car salespeople, which I don't know if that's ever going to be a case, but there is a reason why we call dealerships stealerships. There is a reason why when people are describing someone in a bad way, they tell you that they have like a used car salesman vibe to them. You know what I mean? We go to a non-negotiated price, said Farley. I believe some Mach-E and Lightning customers would love to have a Mustang for the weekend. Maybe they want a Super Duty. I can do that. They, meaning the systems that other automobile manufacturers can't. So this, in my opinion, I mean, this is really, really huge news. They've just broken the news that period, flat out, all EVs are going to be available in an online only format. That blows my mind.
Oh, I'm 100% for that. 100%. The set price, I'm 100% for. Like, just dealers, it's such a scuzzy way to do things nowadays where you go in and you're like, look, man, I can get it at this other place for this price. And they're like, yeah, but we got to do this one actually has the invisible paint protectant on it. We'll just do that. Like, I know that some of that's gone away from back in the day, but it's still horrible to deal with buying a new car. It's horrible to deal with buying a used car from a dealer. And honestly, I think if it would be gone if people just went to their banks and got a loan and bought the car. Like, I've always gone for private party if I'm not doing new,
Hmm.
and I'll just go to my bank, get my own loan. But people like to go in, pick out a car, and then they go in and finance it. Whereas, like, there's no reason you can't just fill out all your information online, and then they're like, "Here's what we can do for you," and then your new car shows up, a week and a half later or whatever. Like, yeah,
And this sentiment that Mobile Moto gives us here on the live stream, he says, my salesman's a nice enough fella, but I've been telling him things that he wasn't aware of. He's simply the guy that takes my financing and hands me the keys. I've done all of the work. And as a car guy, that's the way it feels. And any friends that I've helped purchase vehicles over the years, I can't tell you how many people I've gone in and actually helped them negotiate in a car, figure things out, look it over. Is it right for them? Blah, blah, blah. I don't think I've ever talked about it on the show, but I helped my mother-in-law buy a car that actually I did it twice. And guess what I should have done, Coy? Do it absolutely 0 times, because both times I regretted it, but we'll get into that some other time. That we don't have a Patreon yet, but that needs to be a Patreon episode because I don't want that spread all over the internet. um, but it's right. I mean, when's the last time you went in to buy a car at a dealership, which you've purchased a few, and so have we, and
I've
you
never
actually
gone into a
felt valued?
dealership not knowing what I was gonna buy. You know what I mean? Like, no, I
Right.
never got there and someone convinced me to buy something. I already knew what I wanted. I knew what trim package I wanted. I knew what options I wanted. And then I went to dealers, called dealers, see who had it, and went and looked at the ones they had, kind of, and then just checked it by price. Like, hey, what I can get over here for that. I can get over that. So online, I just put in my what I want, my trim package exactly, and then done. And I think it'll be better for a lot of these. Moto Mobile made a good point. Like, he ordered a manual, and it's supposedly hard for dealers to sell manuals these days. So they don't hardly order manuals, and they order less manuals than people actually want. I mean, sorry, they order less manuals than people will buy just because they'll end up buying an automatic, whereas the manual is a little bit harder to sell.
Mhm.
So if you're actually looking for a manual, they're nigh impossible to find something in a manual. Whereas if it's online, all those options, if you want it, just click boom. And I think a lot more people will spring for things like manuals or, options that maybe don't sell as well. But when it's just they have a pull down click list of options, just of course, if that's what you want, you'll choose it. I mean, I don't know how many people were like, I'd rather have a manual Bronco or a manual whatever, but it was super hard to find. So there's like, yeah, I'll just get automatic. That's what's available, you know?
Right, because if you can't find the manual even though you want it, you have to make that choice. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna leave with a car that I can at least enjoy 90% of the way, or am I gonna wait until I find a manual? And especially right now, if you wanna order a manual transmission on something, you're gonna be waiting a year and a half to get it, and it really doesn't matter what it is. And so dealerships have found themselves in this situation where they kind of can dick around with you and the price as much as they want because they have such low inventory, but there's such high demand that they just know they'll be able to sell it. Same with the housing market, same with computers and computer products. I mean, everything is just so sky high right now because of, all of the Rona and getting things overseas and the backup and blah 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 blah. I mean, there's just all of that. Before I move on to this next image, I wanted to show you. Ford aims to have the capacity to produce 600,000 EVs by 2023, which, I mean, that's, again, for a very new system, that seems like a lot to me. And they mention in this article that's a notably smaller figure than the 936,000 deliveries that Tesla made last year, But again, their systems grew with them. They have had them from the beginning. That has much more of an impact than I think people are really willing to admit or accept right now.
Oh, I fully agree. And Ford is building systems on top of their EV. Like, it's not like they're just growing that. Like, and Tesla has what, 3 models?
Right.
And they talked about a Tesla truck. What we've yet to see. Like, how long ago did they talk about the Tesla truck?
Cybertruck, baby.
Yeah,
What's it been, 2 or 3 years now?
yeah. I haven't seen that at all. Like, no
Mm-hmm.
one has. Like, there's some videos of Elon Musk driving one, but I mean, he's the richest guy on the planet. He can drive what he wants. Yeah, it's ridiculous that you would make that comparison to a company which love Teslas, don't get me wrong, great cars, but I mean they literally make 3 models and they're delivering 900,000 of those, whereas Ford makes, Jesus Christ, I don't even know how many models.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
and then the trim options on the Fords are notorious for being able to get 19 different engines and 12 different transmissions and 3 different bed sizes and 4 different cab sizes in 19 different leather, cloth, premium leather, and Bose sound system, standard sound. Like their options at Ford are notorious. Ask any like X parts guy, and he'll just be like, I really do have to ask you if it's 4-wheel drive and like all these questions because Ford just is nuts with their options.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Gosh, who was it? I think it was Citroen. And we don't have those over here in the land of the free and the home of the brave. But Citroen, they actually made a vehicle. It was the same car, but it had 2 different engine options. Shouldn't have been a big deal, right? The larger engine actually pushed the firewall back, and it had a completely different windscreen on it, and it came with different size windshield wipers. And so there's kind of a funny European meme where it talks about, oh, you drive a Citroen. Which motor do you have in it? Because that's what we need to know if you're going to get windshield wipers. It's just sort of a funny, but there are things like that come up. I wanted to show you this real quick, Coy. This is a compilation of the highest average dealer markups. These are not the highest dealer markups. We've seen, as a matter of fact, if you go over to the Horsepower Hour Facebook page, or the group rather, you'll see some photos that we've posted of stickers that are just outrageous. There was one car, I think it was a Dodge, and the dealer markup was the MSRP. It was the MSRP, and then there was the dealer markup on top of that, and it literally was like a $68,000 car that then had a $68,000 quote unquote market adjustment on it. It's the craziest thing. But they've compiled a list here, and I found this pretty interesting. In 15th place is the Mercedes-Benz GLA, 18.6% markup. That's $7,000 over MSRP just for like the dealer markup, right? Number 2 is the Ford Maverick Hybrid, 25%, which is $5,600 over MSRP. Ford introduced the cheapest hybrid vehicle on the road available today. And personally, I think they should be selling the absolute crap out of them. I mean, totally, it would make sense that they really should not be able to keep these on the shelf, because I think a lot of people are going to look at that and go, that's a really good deal. I'm going to do that. Not when they're paying 25% over sticker price, because that starts putting it into like the Hyundai Santa Cruz and not into Honda Ridgeline money, obviously, but it makes you start thinking. I mean, at $28,000, there's a lot of other things you could get. That's a lot higher than the 22,000 that's supposed to be the MSRP on these. Number 1, Jeep Wrangler with an average of 26.7% over MSRP for almost $9,000. It's 89.25. $9,000 over MSRP sticker. Something has to be done. Clearly something has to be done. We all know it. We all see it. This is just, and look, I understand the dealers, they can get away with it, and so they're going to, because these are unscrupulous people. But it's time for Ford to step in and do something.
I hope Ford does. I don't think they'll do much. Honestly, I think the market will adjust and they'll not be able to do that. And I hope, that it's kind of all looking like we're headed towards a recession or maybe already in one. But I kind of hope that the dealers all take a big fucking hit in the next recession, and they all get screwed over because they paid too much for their or sold their cars for too much, and now nobody wants to buy a car. And then maybe a bunch of them will get a business, and Ford can start their online model more easily when a bunch of their franchises fucking crush.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of hate to see it. I don't want to see anybody lose their job, but again,
It's a car
it's
salesman, though.
it's a
Like,
car salesman. Nobody cares.
car salesmen and lawyers aren't really real people.
This is true. This is true. Well, obviously, we have one more segment, and that is our smoking dealer smoking a doob. And speaking of cars where you may not be there after about a year, this is probably going to be up there.
Smoking deal or smoking adobe.
Coy, this was sent to us. It was actually posted over in the Horsepower Hour Facebook group. And we want to thank Mike Sprague for sending this to us, because this is listen, it's not going to be a deal. I'm just going to be honest with you guys right now. But what we're trying to find out here is just exactly how much of a doob this is. Why don't you tell me what you see? Kind of explain it to the folks.
Well, I see a mint Scion XB, or at least what I see of it is mint, other than the part where they cut the roof off and the back roof quarter, and then put what completely appears to be a boat tonneau or boat bikini top on it. I mean, it's a single point V opened. I can't imagine that this actually withstands driving down the road with the top like that.
There's no way.
Doing 60 miles an hour, I just don't see how it can. But I've been wrong about a lot of things in my life. This looks like it used to be a really nice XB, though. I'll give them that. I didn't notice this on the Horsepower Hour group, but I was wondering, I had posted on there, how is this thing, like when you hit a pothole, how's it not just fold in the middle? There's almost no support left. There's no doors on it. There's no roof. Like, it's just the only thing holding it is the subframe underneath.
There's no B pillars. There's no C pillars. There's no structure from the front windshield back.
So I did notice, though, they welded a harness bar between the B and C pillars there, so it can't just fold in on itself. So at least that added a little structural rigidity. But I mean, what was it? The Jeep Cherokees, they're a subframe wheeler. They're notorious for guys taking the doors off because they were a Jeep, but not a Wrangler, but they take the doors off and then they couldn't put them back on because the doors were actually part of the subframe structural rigidity, and the subframe would flex enough you could put the door back on and stuff. So it's like,
my next door neighbor, when I was 16 or 17 or however old I was, because you and I were out, street racing and doing all the stupid stuff that kids do when they're our age. But yeah, he's had that specific problem. I don't know if you remember that or not. He had a 2.8 Jeep Cherokee that he threw a 4.0 badge on and said, man, nobody's going to notice, and took the doors off, took it out wheeling, never could get the doors back on. And then he got rid of that and got that front wheel drive Celica because he thought he was going to start street racing with us. And he welded the front diff in it, and then it was completely undrivable. So he had to get rid of that.
made sweet exhaust out of like square gutter piping off of a house.
That's right.
And he was revving it for it, and it like was popping and banging because it was so unsealed. I was like, is it backfiring? And he's like, I hope so. All right, bud.
Just dumb people doing dumb things. So here's the seller's description. Back on the market for sale. Yeah, no doy. 2004 Scion XB customized. AC and heater works. That is completely irrelevant to this vehicle. There is no amount of AC or heat that you can have come out of it that would stay in enough to make a difference. Anyways, runs good. Used it out in Havasu at the river for transportation around the resort. I customized it, air quotes, a couple of years ago. No longer needed. Very fun car to drive. Gets lots of attention because people are just waiting to see if you're going to hit a pothole and then explode. Very fun car to drive, lots of attention, has stereo system, ooh, undercarriage lighting as well. Time to let it go, no trades. Comes with car over as well. And yes, the doors are back on it. Uh, hmm?
So he
Huh?
put the doors. Did he? I want to know if he actually cut the doors though to match, or if he just threw doors back on it. Now I'm not going to pretend this guy says it's a ton of fun.
He did.
Absolutely,
He
I
did. Look at
had
that boy.
a
He
Camry that
chopped the
had.
doors.
Oh yeah, at least that's got to go. I had a Camry that had a similar, like an '86 Camry that had a real similar thing done to it, and yeah, it was a fuckload of fun to drive. Like we ripped that thing around like crazy and had a good time in it. But
The converted, I remember that.
it also went to the scrapyard when I was done. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way. I mean, $4,000. I see Scion XBs for sale that aren't all chopped up for $2,000.
Yeah.
So, you
And
know,
it's not like it's super low mileage. It's got 156. Like that's not a lot, but that's not low.
it's an automatic. It doesn't even have a desirable drivetrain in it. I mean, there's nothing about this car that's going to get you where you want to be. So now we have to decide what we think this is going to sell for and what we would pay for it, right? Do you want to go first or you want me to start?
I'll go first
Okay.
because I always got to do what would it cost me to recreate this. I'd literally pick any Scion XB up for 2,100, and then I spent $16 on various Sawzall and cutting wheel paraphernalia, and
Mhm.
then I steal one of these tops off of a boat in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Done. So I'm into it. $2,116. So right there, I can recreate this masterpiece for literally about half of what he's asking. What I think it'll sell for, I don't think it's going to sell as long as he's asking that price, because that price is so much higher than what someone would even consider giving, that they're not even if I was willing to give this guy $2,000 right now, I would never message him and be like, "Hey, will you take 50%?" You know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe he's willing to take that, but I'm not even gonna go there.
Mhm.
So I think this will sell for like 1,800. Like,
Mhm.
that's enough. Somebody will get it and drive it around this summer, and they have their dad has a shop or the garage. Like, and where is this located? California. So it's in a
Yeah.
place where there's good weather. So that's a plus. So you don't really have to worry about it getting rained in. Now, what?
It's also, but hold on, it's also in a place where the cops are notorious for pulling you over and trying to like inspect all of your modifications to make sure they're all roadworthy.
I mean, if we're being totally honest, it's in California. Well before the cops pull you over to check and see if it's roadworthy, you're going to park it on the curb overnight and it'll get stolen. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah. What's your buy it now price?
bro, I feel like I'm going to do this again. I know I've done this before. As long as it's three numbers, like if it is 9,000 or $999, I'm in. And he's like, I got to have 1,000 even. I'm like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm right there with you. I'm 100% with you. We got a couple of comments coming in. Momoto says key demographic for this is 12 to 15-year-old boys. Heard that, son. Not gonna lie, with the doors, this is Jake Jaden. With the doors on, it'd be a fun car if I was a beach bum in Tijuana. That is the truth. Needs a pool liner and 500 gallons of Jello and some strippers. Or since it's on the West Coast, maybe you could just get some bikini baristas to pay to drive that thing around. So here's where I'm at on this. I think he's going to get $1,500 simply because it's kind of weird, unique. Someone that has money, probably a YouTuber, like a famous YouTuber, is going to roll up and try to offer him cash. But I don't think it's going to go for a penny over $1,500. My buy it now price, I would do $400, and I'm going to tell you why. If this was $400, that would leave me enough money to go out and find some like ATV tires to put on the front and back, and then I would just run it in one of the you know, southeast. I don't know if there's a Florida chapter of the Gambler, but that's exactly what I would do. I would have no expectation of this being running and driving when I was done. By the way, like it would be destined for the scrapyard but it would be an interesting and fun time, especially if they're holding the Gambler during like hurricane season. Then shit would really start getting weird. You know what I'm talking about?
So this is one where you run it, you pay $400, you put some ATV tires on it, and you run it. And when it breaks, you push it to the beach and just hope that the hurricanes or tide take it away so you don't have to pay to get it towed.
Yes. And if it is drivable, I mean, at all, I leave the keys in it in a bad neighborhood and then just wait for a week and call my insurance.
Perfect.
I'll get my $500 back. We just ran the Gambler for essentially free. And that's money well spent, in my opinion. But that's where I land on that. Let us know in the comments where you land on this. Is it a deal? No, obviously it's not. Is it a do? What would you be willing to pay for it? We do want to hear from you about that. And we do really enjoy reading those comments. So thank you for doing it. And that is our Smoking Dealer Smoking Do.
Smoking Deal or Smoking Adobe.
Coy, we held this nice and tight, my friend. I appreciate that. I'm about to go live over on the Tales from the Crypt podcast with our friend Justin Bustle. It's going to be a great time. So if you guys want to come over and check that out, we're going to be reviewing an episode of the Tales from the Crypt show. So please do come and check that out if you get a chance. We want to thank you first and foremost for tuning in. We want to thank you for telling a friend about the podcast. It really is what keeps us going, what keeps the wind in our sails, and we love you for it. And we give virtual hugs to every single one of you. Coy, where can people find you, man?
You can find me at any of the Facebook, Instagram pages, the Horsepower Hour group or the Horsepower Hour page. Just message and say you want to talk to me, and I will happy to talk to you. And I also want to thank everybody in the comments. We had some good stuff in the comments. You guys had some killer burns and stuff. Like, we weren't able to get them all up on the page here and talk about every comment, but makes the show so much more enjoyable for me to do when we're getting some good heat in the comments. So appreciate that, guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for that. And thank you, Coy. Love you, buddy. And we will talk to you next week, my friend. So for Coy Forticus and Masterson, Jr., Senior Esquire, Duke of Earl Grey, this is Andy. We will see you next time.